Hey, welcome to another live coaching. I am joining you from Hawaii. I'm back from Japan. Hello, aloha. How are you doing? Did you sail this week? I sailed this week. Feels good to be home. Feels good to be back. We were in Japan for 3 weeks, which is a long time. And it felt good. Actually, I didn't want to leave. We had a really good time in Japan. I was there with the family. I went for the windsurfing competition, and then we stayed longer, went to Tokyo afterwards. And before the event, we went to Kyoto. And so I was doing the live streams from on the road. So it's nice to be home in the studio. But Japan was really fun. And yeah, I didn't want to leave. It was a fun trip, fun place to be. I like Japan. Great windsurfing too. Now I'm back home in Hawaii. There's been windsurfing. I went sailing a couple days ago, and it was actually really fun. 4-7. I don't have any footage from it, but really fun sailing. What have I been working on? I've been testing my fins. So I always like to have something to be testing or working on. Often gear and technique wise. So I was doing, yeah, some fin testing, seeing if I can go a little bit smaller. I lost some weight over the last year, so I'm seeing if I can go smaller. All right. Wow, a lot of people in the comments. Hey, Jorg, Rasmus in Hamburg, moin moin, Dom Dom, Suna, good evening from Denmark, and Jakob as well. Team Denmark is here representing. Sounds like they had some good wins. Hey Jeff, how you doing? How's your body? My connection's a little weak. That's strange. Anyway, Matt, Stefan, Facebook in Kellehusen. Is that Carl? Dom Dom. Dom Dom's asking about new fins. Not new fins. I really like my Ezzy side fins, and I have a lot of fins from K4 that they always send me to test, which I do test. But I seem to always go back to the Ezzy's, just the standard Ezzy fins that K4 makes. And then in the rear, I really like the Scorcher. I'm just going a little bit smaller. So I'm normally on the 18. I've been playing with the 17. I like the 18. I like the drive it gives me. I like the confidence. But it's harder with my setup now to do sliding tricks like takas. And I used to do a lot of takas, and it's something that I want to do more of again. And so trying to just loosen up my setup a little bit to make it easier to do them again, because my setup has moved more towards doing hard carving turns, and I want to integrate some more tricks now again. And the 17 felt good, especially being a little bit lighter. I could make it work. John, Tamaz, you're coming to Maui soon, right? When are you coming to Maui? A couple days. Hey, Facebook on Denmark, from Denmark. All right. All right. So let me see. I'm going to load up the Facebook page and we'll get into it. If you're just joining us, let me know how you're doing, where you are, if you sailed this week. Suna had an epic day in Moon. Cool. Great waves, 10 to 15 meters per second, sun, 4 degrees. Yeah, Moon is one of the best kept secrets in European wave sailing. I don't know if it's a secret, but it seems like it is. People don't really know about it, and it's really good. All right, I'm going to load up the Facebook group. Comment. All right. Facebook group is loaded up. I think I can change. Can you guys see this? I'm trying to change the layout a little bit. if this is making it better or worse. Is that making it better? What does that look like? No, it doesn't change it. Hey, Thomas. No changes. Max. All right, these layouts don't work. All right. All right. I'm done playing with this. I'm done playing with this. I promise. Ah, All right. Now we're back. Sorry, guys. All right. Here we go. Into the Facebook group. Hey, Stina. All right, that's Stina on Facebook. All right, first up, we've got a question from Stefan. I wonder if my board has enough volume for me to use in lower winds, like with 5-3 in El Cabezo, or to surf waves that produce apparent wind, like Manawawa, Lamorne. My wave skill level is quite low. I've sailed Cabezo and onshore in Sweden. My board is the Pyro 87 with a thruster, and I have 534742, and I weigh 77 kilograms. Is this board enough? I think it is. I think it is because it's 10 liters more than your weight. I'd say it's probably the minimum size for a floater. It's about, so you've got a little bit more than 10 kilos to play with, right? Because 1 kilo of 1 liter is equivalent to about 1 kilo. It's actually a little bit more because that would be for freshwater and we're in saltwater, right? So I think it's, you got to look up what the conversion is, but it's a little bit more. So you've got a little bit more than 10 kilos, but then you think you've got your wetsuit, your rig, your harness, all this stuff that's I think for an advanced windsurfer, 10 liters for your floater board is perfect. You know, plus 10. So if you weigh 85, then go to 95. But so this could be good. Hey, Rich. Hey, Dennis, Luis. Guten Morgen aus Haiku. Hello. Yeah, so Stefan is saying that in Mauritius, the water is salty, of course. It's ocean. I mean, most of the sailing we're doing is in the ocean. And then in Sweden, he's wearing a thick wetsuit with less salt. That's interesting. Is there less salt in the water? I wonder if you notice the different buoyancy with the salt. Okay. Can anyone say windsurfing in Sweden compared to other spots like Mauritius, do you notice a difference in buoyancy with the salt water? By the way, I just wanted to say, I saw Stina in the comments saying hello from Denmark. I saw that she's running for president of the Klitmøller Surf Club. Got my support. Stina, if you want to write a little bit in the chat about your campaign, I know that there's a few other Danish windsurfers in here who might be interested in hearing why you're running, what you want to do. Yeah, so John is saying that saltwater has 2.5 times more density, and you definitely feel it. I don't know how many of you guys. So this is a question for the chat. Tell me, have you windsurfed with the same setup in freshwater and saltwater? I have. I've done it. Where have I done it? In the gorge in Oregon. So in Oregon, you have the gorge, which I'm sure you guys have seen pictures of. It's super famous in windsurfing. It's a river, and the wind goes in the opposite direction of the current, which or the river flow, which makes these big swells. And so you can ride the swells and jump really high because it gets really windy. and it's fresh water, obviously. And then if you drive a few hours, you've got the Oregon coast, Pistol River, all of these famous spots. And anyway, so I've done a lot of windsurfing where it's, one day in the freshwater, the next day in the saltwater, and you really do notice a difference. So yeah, saltwater makes a huge difference in terms of buoyancy for your gear. So Stefan, I think that the board seems good. It's the lower level though for volume for a floater for you, for your weight, for everything that you've listed. So I think that if you're considering getting a bigger board for the onshore conditions in Sweden, that might be a good idea. So going with a 93 or a 95, 96 cents, I mean, 95, 96, it's not very different, but I would think 93, 92, 93 is about the range you want to be, 94. But I also want to say that the 87 isn't necessarily too small either. It's just the lower end of that range. What are people saying in the comments? Try some boards. Yeah, it's I like seeing these personal opinions of what works. I think you don't have to go too big. It's just important that you have something that you're comfortable on and that gets you out in more days, because like I saw someone saying that having a bigger board makes it less comfortable to turn. Yeah, that's true. But if you can't even catch the waves, what good is a board that can turn better, right? So you have to be getting on the waves. All right, here's a 360 video from Mario. This is cool. Switch this thing around. Whoa, it's going crazy. I'm having trouble getting it where I want to get it to see it. Do I have to make it full screen? Is that better? Yeah, that is better. Can you guys see that okay? This is cool. Okay, so Stina says that there's a new surf club in Hanstham, and that's what she is campaigning for. That's cool. I didn't know that. I just assumed Clipmiller. Information is on the link that she posted. She's running for president. Wow, this is a cool angle from Mario. Look at that. I like this angle. Speaking of angles, all right, thanks, John. Sorry, I left that up there. I'm in the Facebook group, so actually I can't see this other screen, so I left it up. Anyway, this is Stina's comment about her campaign and the new club. Rasmus is saying that the pyro shape is easy for planing. I've never sailed it, but it sounds interesting. All right, this angle is pretty cool from Mario. I really like the angle, and we're going to get into that in a second, from Jakob. Here it is. So this is a pretty cool angle. I've got the 360 cam. I'm going to get this mount because it looks so good. So Jakob has inspired me with his footage to... Yeah, and so Max is pointing out that this is an angle that Ben Prophet recommended and a mount setup that he recommended. So there's a video, Jakob posted it in the group, and that's where he got this from. But I really like the angle. So yeah, I'm going to get one of these mounts. I think I'm just missing there's a fly mount with a little extension or mast or something that comes out. So Jakob posted another clip a few days ago or last week that we were talking about. And so he's trying to stick his butt out and working on nose to the water part. And he's wondering, is he talking about my nose? So like the nose on his face or the nose on the board? And it's the nose on your face when I say that. And it's just a way to think about getting your body really bent over in the bottom turn. Because what you want to do, so this already is looking better in terms of where you're bending. And now we just want to get that your body leaned over. So you've got good bend in the knees, some bend in the hips. Now get leaned over. And so you can lean into this gap. So there's a gap that's created when you're sheeting out between your board and your sail, when you're sheeting out in an onshore bottom turn. And you want to lean into that gap. And you can think about trying to touch your nose down to the water here. And if sticking your butt out doesn't work for you, if that concept isn't working, which is fine if it's not, think about getting your chest down. So trying to get your chest low, chest to your knees, because what you really want is not to be so upright. Because if you're upright with your body over the board, then the only way that you can turn the board is by sinking the tail. And then that slows you down. Whereas if you're leaning over the center line, you're on the rail, carving the board, keeping speed, and turning tighter as well. So I hope that concept makes sense. So try and get your chest down. Try and lean over that center line. And in these onshore conditions, there's kind of a safety of being supported by the sail. In some ways, it's even easier than in offshore conditions, because you're sheeting out the sail like this. I like you're getting low before you go yuck up. There's a lot right in this, but in this gap, there's a gap between your board and the sail. And you just lean into that and try and touch your nose, the nose of your face, to the water. Just try and get leaned over is what we want. And then, because right now you can see that your board is facing kind of into the beach the whole time, and it's pretty hard for you to get it turned back into the wave. And ideally, we want the board to be doing a U shape. So the board starts facing into the beach, then facing parallel with the wave, and then coming up the wave and hitting the wave. But that's really hard to do if you're not leaning over, right? We got to get leaning over that center line to get this rail engaged. So body start position looks great. Sail open position looks great. We just got to get you leaned over on those toes, over the center line, getting that rail engaged. And then when you're doing that bottom turn, you're really trusting the board. This is good timing on this section, but I want you to aim for that high five. So hitting this one under your feet, getting that contact, and then this wave will accelerate you in. It will transfer all of its energy into your board. I mean, this is a nice cutback. You're doing good. So we're talking about fine tuning. We're talking about details to go faster. Keep working on it. You know, you've got the basics. Now it's time to start working on them. So I hope that's clear. Jakob, is that clear? Let me know in the chat. Anyone else as well, if you have any other tips or tricks or questions, let me know. Nice little backside. I really recommend going backside on waves, especially when it's onshore. There's a lot to learn. It's fun, and it looks cool. So right on. All right, next up, we've got a 360 clip. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Going crazy. So the dive mount, this is the dive mount. It's a little bit awkward position, but the clip looks cool. I would recommend not using the dive casing. The writing looks good, Tomas. You said I recommended not using the dive casing, but you said, what did you say? You said you crashed one camera, and so you just need to change the blind spot. Insta360 also makes cage. I've got one. I don't have it with me, I think, but they make a little cage that you can put the camera in, which gives it pretty good protection. That might be enough. Give that a go. All right, Bart, working on his wave riding. Wants more drive in the bottom turns. This is looking pretty solid, though. Ooh, that was nice. That was nice. Okay. Bart, are you with us? If you're in the chat, say hello. So this is interesting. There's something really interesting in this wave that I like. So if we look at the first few turns, and we're specifically looking at the bottom turns, they're fine, but a little slow, a little bit long, not very hard driving, which Bart says he wants to improve. But then look at this third turn. There's a lot more drive in the bottom turn, and they get this snappy cutback. And what's different? The main thing that's different is that he has a really clear section that he's got to make. There's nowhere else for him to go. If you look at where the wave is open, there's this one spot. It's breaking. He's got to hustle and bustle to get there. Otherwise, the wave is going to be done. And that forces extra drive in the bottom turn, forces this great sail transition position with this S in the front arm, like we talk about, where the sail comes across the body, and then ends up with this dynamic high five smack. So just by being in the right place, it forces Bart to be more dynamic and have more drive, which is interesting. A lot of times just putting yourself in the right spot makes it happen. Where these earlier ones, there's a lot less urgency, right? So this first bottom turn is a lot more relaxed. There's less drive. Okay, so where do we go from here? What I want to say is that this third turn looks great. You know, you're getting U-shaped bottom turn. You're hustling and bustling to this little section, getting a high five, getting that connection. How do we increase the drive in the bottom turns? Is the same thing we talked about with Jakob. We want to get your body leaned more over that center line. There are a few different things you can think about. I'm just going to throw them all out there. I would say that you want to think about one of these at a time. But like Bart is saying, sometimes your brain just doesn't pick up one of these concepts. And that's why I give multiple concepts at a time, because everyone's brain is different. And sometimes you click with a concept and sometimes you don't. So I give a few just to see what clicks and what doesn't. So sticking your butt out is one that can help. Getting your chest is another. Trying to touch your nose to the water is another. These are kind of cruisy, nice bottom turns. The wave isn't really doing much. So that's another thing that's important, right? Is that the intensity or drive of your turns depends on the power in the wave. If the wave isn't breaking, if it's a rolly wave that's just setting up, you're not going to be able to do a hard drivey bottom turn and cutback, because doing a hard driving turn requires a wave that's pushing back, that's setting up to help you, right? Riding waves, it's about the wave. It's not in a vacuum. So you want to make sure as well that the intensity of your turn matches the intensity of the wave. And these first two turns, the wave is pretty relaxed. Hey, Dana Miller, thanks for joining us. So what I would like to see is just a little bit more lean in this bottom turn, getting over that center line instead of being so upright. You've got good bend in the knees. You can get more bend in the waist. So bending over at the waist, getting the chest down, sticking the butt out. You don't want the butt, see where the butt is. The butt is over the cutback rail. You want the butt actually leaned out over your toe side rail. And that gets the board engaged and turning. And you can really keep the sail upright and trust in that power of the sail to let you lean your body over and then help give you support so that you have the confidence to really lean over. But again, the wave has to be powerful enough. If you're doing this when the wave is not breaking, it's super early, soft wave, you're not going to have the power of the wave to support you. You're not going to have the board speed from the wave to support you. The other thing to think about is where your hips are pointed. So, Bart, your hips are pointing, if we look at it where they're pointing, they're kind of pointing towards the nose of the board. If you think about getting those hips pointed towards your toes or towards the wave, it's also going to be easier to get your body leaned over and carving on that rail. So you can think about turning those hips. The more your hips are pointed towards the nose of the board, the more back foot pressure you'll have. The more your hips are turned towards the rail, the more that pressure will be evenly distributed between your 2 feet. So that's a little trick, a little hack for back foot versus more even-footed riding. So those are some things to work on. Bart, I'd love to hear your comments. Yeah, some other people give their advice. Good to hear. Dana says that the Oregon coast is still a little chilly, but he had some fun storm sailing. Nice. Pretty cool. All right, let's move on. We've got a post from Stina. Whoa, 21 pictures. Stina is on it. All right, let's see what Stina's been up to. Here's a photo sequence turned into a video. Nice smack. Stina, it's awesome to see your progression. We've been watching your sailing in the group over the last few years, and it's awesome to see that progression. All right, this is the same smack, just the photo sequence. Really getting that high five, right? And once you get the high five, you can really trust in the wave to push you to safety. So you can see that she's hitting this section pretty late, but because she's getting that high five contact, the power and energy in the wave are transferring into her board, and it's throwing her to safety instead of munching her, pushing her down. Right on. Right on. You got to be proud of that hit, Stina. Looks good. All right. Dave is looking for Galicia advice. I've never been to Galicia. I would like to go, though. It's one of the places on my bucket list where I've never been, but would really like to windsurf. I've heard good things, but I do not know enough about it to give any tips. Looks like we've got some tips from other people in the comments. So Dave, if you go, give us a report. Next few weeks will be at this time. I think it's a little bit later for Europe. It's the same time for me on Maui. Maui doesn't do daylight savings time. We don't change the time. But I know Europe has. And I think we'll stick with this time through the summer. That's what we've done in the past years. 9 p.m. for spring and summer. And then once the days start getting shorter, bring it back to 8. All right, we've got a post from Bruno trying to go for the aerial, wondering about hand position on the boom. Yeah, this is a bit too late. Also, this is not really the right section. So the wave is throwing, which is what you want, but especially when you're learning, You want to do aerials going into the wave, into the power of the wave, not with the power of the wave. So you can see the wave is breaking this way. And that's a lot harder to line up with to do your aerial than if the wave is coming at you. So if you're looking at the section coming at you like that, it's a lot easier to get the timing and placement. Whereas if you're going with the wave like this, it's more difficult. So if you're learning, it makes sense to do it with the wave. Okay, so here's a little clip. So, okay. A few different comments, Bruno. One, and this is something that's important for everyone. Whitewater waves that have whitewater in them, generally want to be avoided. Why? Two main reasons. One, or three main reasons actually. One is that they have whitewater in them because the first waves were bigger, which means that they're probably a smaller wave, and that might not be what you want. You want to get another set. It's kind of the runt of the set. Two, having whitewater in the wave face can make it choppier, can make it more difficult to get speed, can make it easier to slide out with your fins. Three, it makes it harder to read. Whitewater waves are harder to read. It's harder for your eyes and brain to see the contrast in the water. And so it's really difficult to get the timing right. Aerials, what you're trying to do, are all about timing. So especially for aerials, learning aerials, you want to avoid whitewater waves. Whitewater waves are something you want to avoid in general. Sometimes you can't, sometimes the spot, there's just a small period, there's a lot of waves coming through, there's a lot of whitewater waves. But in general, you want to avoid whitewater waves. This is something true for all of you guys. I'd love to hear. Let me know in the comments. What are your experiences with whitewater waves? Is that something you've noticed before? Let me know in the comments. All right. Next up. So aerials, a lot about timing, a lot about speed. So the exercise that I want you to work on, Bruno, is just picking up speed from the wave. So staying high on the wave, you can stay a little bit higher than this. You want to stay in the upper half of the wave and really try to pick up as much speed as possible down the line. And you don't even have to do a bottom turn, really, in the beginning. Better aerials have bottom turns, but when you're trying to learn the aerial, it's about speed and timing, not about the bottom turn. So you want to go as straight as possible, as fast as possible, high on the wave, and then you're looking just to hit that section that's coming at you like this. So the section's coming at you like this. So then you're just putting your board in that curl and letting it push you. It's not like a jump. If you're trying to jump it, that will actually disconnect you from the wave and do less of an aerial. It looks like you're not trying to jump it. It looks like you're letting the wave do the work. But it's difficult because you're doing it with the wave, and it's a lot easier if you're doing it against the wave. So how do you do that at this spot? I'm not really sure because I haven't sailed here before, but if you can get it where that you're able to hit that section coming at you, that's going to be a lot more ideal. Don't try to make it in front of the wave at first. Just try to get some height, try to feel that connection with the board launching you in the air and go off the back. That's how you learn. But get the connection, start getting the speed, start getting the placement. And then once you can do that, then work on bringing it more in front of the wave. And there's going to be a progression to that as well. You're going to first start landing on top of the whitewater, kind of in the whitewater, and then the ultimate end goal of aerials is landing in the flats in front. That's the pro level. I don't know how realistic it is to have that as your goal, but that's, if you're looking at aerials, that's the progression off the back, completely off the back. That's when you're learning. On that's still learning. On the whitewater, but coming in front, woohoo! You made it. Landing in the whitewater, that's, I think, the main goal for 90% of the people. Landing in the whitewater, making it in front. You've got a nice soft landing with the whitewater. Pro level, it's landing in the flats, hard landing, Pretty technical, feels good. That's the sort of the goal. So you don't want to do such a hard bottom turn because that will kill your speed. Really think about picking up your speed, not being so much on the rail, keeping the board pretty flat, staying high, upper half of the wave, and seeing how you can pump, how you can position the sail to be going as fast as possible. So those are the most important things. So just to recap, avoid whitewater waves. Stay in the upper half of the wave. Try and go as fast as possible. Don't think about doing a bottom turn. Just think about speed. And then hit that section coming at you instead of going with the section. All right. Bruno, if you're with us, let me know if that makes sense. All right. Luis has a question about Fuerte. I am not a Fuerte expert, so I will leave that up to you guys. Looks like we've got 13 comments. Sounds good. All right, Jakob, here's the post, how to set up the fly mount. I'm going to do this. I've got to go through the video, order this piece. I've got Insta360. I don't have the mount, so I'll do that. Oh yeah, there's a video on Ben Profit's channel that got tons of views that inspired a lot of controversy. I was curious about what you guys thought, so thank you for sharing your opinions. Mike has a question. He's in the market for an 85-liter bump and jump board. Was a fan of the Taboo 3S. Any recommendations? So we've got some good comments here. I think if you like the 3S, go with another 3S. Makes sense. I think that's a good board. All right, Mateo has a question about K4 fins. Can a fully asymmetric quad fin setup really work? I don't think so. I think you want to have the front fins asymmetric and the back fins symmetric. He's 80 kilograms and he is wondering what setup to use. I would say that you want to go with something like the 8 Ezzy's, and in the rear, something like the 14 or 15 centimeter Scorchers. So someone on Facebook has asked me what I thought about the Send It Sunday episode. I don't really have such a strong opinion, which is, I guess, why I was so interested at the strong backlash that it created. I thought parts of it were funny with the spot the bail. I thought that was pretty funny. It's funny wordplay. I think part of the humor, though, relies on being a native English speaker because there's a lot of wordplay that's happening. And it also makes it kind of clear that it's not Ben Profit's original video, that it's something that's been edited over, which is where the humor comes from. Yeah, and I get that people don't like the thumbnail, and I totally understand that. In terms of it being sexist, I don't know if it's sexist. I mean, there's a lot of male nudity and female nudity in there, so it's not really like one gender is more exploited than the other. I think if I was a kite surfer, I'd maybe be offended, or not. I'm not sure. But anyway, I didn't really have a strong effect on me. There were parts I thought were funny. It was different. In windsurfing, there's so much that's the same all the time. And so I thought it was interesting to see something that's different. But I got it. I knew that it was not a video from Ben Profit. I knew it was like a remix edit from Paul Van Bellen. I think if you don't know that, it's pretty jarring. I think a lot of these things have to do with expectation. And so how something is set up determines how you can receive it. And so being set up as a normal Send It Sunday, I think is probably what was jarring for a lot of people. Then also I think a lot of the humor relies on being a native English speaker. So I think those were some of the issues. But I really liked hearing what you guys thought. All right. We already talked about this clip from Mateo. We already talked about this clip from Jakob. John T posted this of Jerry Lopez on an. Jerry Lopez was a big windsurfer in the 80s. And yeah, he did a lot of projects with my dad. They had a store together, they're friends. There are some cool old windsurfing videos with them together. So yeah, Jerry Lopez was on Ezzy Sails in the 80s. Good eye. Some funny comments from Sel about conversations on the beach. We already talked about this from Jan. What's the more recent comment? I don't know. Thank you, Dom, for updating the coaching book. We already talked about this from Cody. And I think like that, we're caught up. Is that right? I think we're caught up. Okay, cool. So what do you guys want to talk about? We can talk about something else. If you have any questions, throw them my way. I'm going to explore. Let's check out the fly mount. Let's see if we can find the Insta360 mount. All right. There's a video in the comments of your post. Who's that? For some, you've got to like link Facebook. I don't know why. So hey, Facebook user, let me know who you are. For some reason, you have to link with my streaming software. You have to link Facebook periodically. Oh, Stina. Awesome. All right, Stina, let me check your post and see your video. Do you have a coaching question? I love seeing this. Looks like you're really killing it. All right, here's your video. Oh, yeah. Boom. There's another one. Yeah, so Stina, what I see here is a lot of things coming together that you've been working on over the last couple years. I wonder how it feels for you. I mean, do you feel like your pieces have fallen together, or does it and come together and now you're like reached a new level, or is the progress so gradual that you don't really notice it? There's a few things that really stand out to me. One is pumping here to get speed. Speed is so important. Speed is your friend. The only way to get the board on the rail and be stable and carve is to be going fast, is to have speed, right? So pumping, getting up to speed here, super important. Getting low before you go, getting low, this bend in the knees. Then getting leaned over. So here's an example of getting leaned over, not standing upright over the board, which allows that carve. You could lean over a little bit more, Sina, and have an even more dynamic turn. Hitting this late section, but getting that high five. And so you can see that it looks like Stina's main focus is just getting in the position. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but getting in the position so that the bottom of the board is presented to that whitewater. Because if that late section hits the side of the board, hits the top of the board, it's going to push it down. It's not going to accelerate. It's not going to work. But by presenting the bottom of the board, getting that impact, getting that high five contact, she gets all this acceleration and push. And it's this awesome cutback. Boom. Look at all the speed that she gets from that. And it's just because of that, the way that she's presenting the board. Just a lot of good fundamentals. I think, Stina, the next thing to work on is the timing. So if you hit this section just a little bit earlier, then you would be able to make this next section. Or if you went right into the next turn, you would also be able to make the next section. And so those are two different things to work on. I think as you progress, obviously, the things to work on get more particular, they get smaller. And so these are two small concepts. The first is just going a little bit earlier on the timing. And the second is not having as much of a pause between your cutback and your next turn. And so you do a good job of going into this next turn pretty soon, but there's just a little pause. And so what you can work on is come out of this turn and you're already leaning into the next turn, and then you can try and hit that section, which, given how good you are at hitting these late sections, if you're just a split second earlier, you would be able to make this second section. And it's really fun. This is one of the fun things in advanced wave sailing, is two sections really quickly, and it's hard, it's fun, it feels like you're dancing, it feels kind of crazy when you come out of that first turn and you just kind of go right into the second turn, and you've got to figure out the next one. And then if you can hit three together, it's an awesome feeling. It's like, whoa, bam, bam, bam. Feels kind of crazy. It doesn't feel really comfortable, but it feels uncomfortable in a good way, so that you can come out of that turn and you just lean right into the second turn and just trusting that it's going to work, figuring out how to make it work. So I think those are the two things I would say to work on, Stina. If you want something technique wise, because those are more conceptual rather than technique, you could try to get a little bit more lean in that bottom turn. So think about either, it's a recurring theme. This is what we're all trying to work on. Chest down, that butt out, nose to the water, and the bottom turn, just to get a little bit more lean. But otherwise, something that I think you'll have a lot of fun with is really coming out of those cutbacks and going right into the next turn, because that's something that's, like I said, it's so fun. And when you get two off the lips like that in a really quick time period, short space, and you're just coming out of it, it feels really exhilarating. It's really fun. It's one of the most fun things you can do in windsurfing, because you have this, it's like dancing. You have this synchronicity with the wave where your energy is really matched to the energy of the wave, and you're reacting to it. Bam, bam, bam. So it feels like a dance. It feels really good. I would say that that's something that everyone should aspire to, because it's just so much fun. Is really linking these turns, so then the turns are not separate units on the wave, but the turns are connected. And so there are two turns or three turns or one unit where you're going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And that is where wave sailing gets really exciting and really exhilarating. Obviously, you've got to build up the fundamentals, build up your understanding of the basic turns before you get there. But I think that's one of the ultimate goals for everyone. And it's achievable for everyone. It's achievable. Stefan is saying that he's browsing for accessories now for the fly mount. That's cool. I'm going to check that out after the stream and yeah, see what I can find, because I love that camera angle. Looks awesome. All right, let me just see if there are any more posts. Hey, Ogus. Cool. All right, guys. Trees are moving. I don't know what the waves are doing on Maui, but looks like a windy day for me. So I'm going to go start my day and get on the water myself. I hope you guys have a windy week. I will be here same time next week, Sunday, and I hope to see you there. All right, have a windy week. I'll see you in the Facebook group. Keep posting. Cool. Jakob just added a post about the mount in his previous post. I'm going to check that out because I want one of these mounts. They look cool. All right. Take care, everyone.